April 9th is just around the corner for the highly anticipated bout between Alexander Volkanovski and the Korean Zombie at UFC 273. While we'll be streaming the fight live for ourselves, today we decided to take a look at Jung Chansung, the formidable featherweight that dominates the octagon. So sit back as we reveal why fighters are really scared of the Korean Zombie. First up, his fighting prowess. Jung was appropriately named the Korean Zombie because of his zombie-like ability to get up and keep fighting even after sustaining heavy blows to the body and head. That's a rare ability to have and requires unbelievable willpower, especially in the octagon. And we need to look no further than his fight with Dustin Poirier in 2012. The fight was described as a showstopper and one of the most thrilling bouts of 2012, with both featherweights throwing everything in their arsenal against each other. Round 1 began with Jung being more technical, picking his punches carefully and defending against Poirier's takedowns. Eventually, Jung gained leverage against his opponent's mistakes and landed a few takedowns of his own. Then came round 2, where the Korean Zombie really got to work on Poirier, with many flying knees, spinning back fists, and other combinations, ending in Poirier nearly finished from an attempted armbar by Jung. But the Korean Zombie's cardio was fading, and Poirier rushed to take advantage by a flurry of power punches, cutting up Jung's face. As they got to round 4, we saw the two men leave technicality behind and engage in an all-out brawl. This was what Jung favors, though. The fight ended with the Korean Zombie landing a powerful uppercut and a brutal knee to the head. He then put Poirier to sleep in a DRS choke and won the fight. What makes this win even more of a dominating move is the fact that in a post-fight interview, Poirier began to tear up as he felt that he deserved to win the fight. But he admitted that the Korean Zombie was ultimately the better fighter. And that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the ultimate fighter. Up next, the first twister submission in UFC history. So far, Jung has had 8 victories through submissions, and one of those was at the very beginning of his UFC career. In his UFC debut, Jung went up against bad boy Leonard Garcia. Now, Garcia was known as one of the most formidable featherweights at the time, having already defeated Jung via submission in World Extreme Cage Fighting in 2010. On March 26, 2011, however, Jung went up against Garcia again at Seattle's Key Arena, and he didn't just defeat Garcia. No, he gave the spectators something to remember for a long time. With 10 seconds left to end round 2, Jung maneuvered Garcia into a chokehold and began twisting and turning to get into the right position to force his opponent to submit. Jung sent painful elbows to Garcia's already battered head, and then suddenly grappled him into a position called the twister. Garcia's upper torso literally twisted one way, and his lower body contorted in the other direction. In a world of pain, Garcia tapped out, and Jung won his first ever UFC match. What makes this special, though, is that the twister, also known as the wrestler's guillotine, is known as the most painful move in MMA. It was an extremely rare occurrence that only a few people in the building and those watching from home had seen before. In a post-fight interview, Garcia said that it was a pain that he has never felt before, and that if he had held on any longer, he would have snapped in two. On a scale of 1 to 10, Garcia said that the pain he experienced while being in the twister was a whopping 10.5. Even commentators were unable to see the twister coming, being so rare. Jung himself said in a post-fight interview that he learned how to do the move by watching Eddie Bravo videos on YouTube. If only we had learned that in high school, it would have been a totally different experience. Next, the Korean Zombie's triumphant return. In a sport that's as volatile and constantly changing as the UFC, being away for a few months can spell trouble for a fighter's career. But being away for 2 years, that could change things in the worst of ways, seeing as the UFC's landscape can change in just 1 month. In his bout with Jose Aldo, all the way back in 2013, the Korean Zombie got knocked out after suffering a shoulder injury in round 4. A loss like that would obviously shock any fighter, and Jung was no different. He was out of action for a few months, and after rehabbing his shoulder injury, he was booked again for a co-main event against Akira Kurosani, but he never made it to the cage. During his training, he aggravated the same injury in his shoulder and had to pull out from the event. Things only got worse for the fighter from here. In South Korea, the law states men must serve in the military by age 30, and Jung, 27 at the time, hadn't done that. He decided to get it out of the way and enlisted in the military for 2 whole years. At first, it was unclear whether he would return to the UFC, but in 2017, it was announced that he would be returning. We saw Jung return to UFC Fight Night 104 as the underdog, going up against top 10 contender Dennis Bermudez, and the fight was brutal. During the fight, Jung showed exactly why he's known as the Korean Zombie, suffering serious punishment at the hands of Bermudez, who sent flurries of overhand punches that connected early and often. But the Korean Zombie keeps moving forward. That's why we're in awe of the man, and that's why everyone who faces him starts to sweat, knowing that the Zombie will keep coming towards them. Even before the fight began, the odds were stacked against Jung. He hadn't been seen in the octagon for 4 years, and had spent time rehabbing a dislocated shoulder on top of his 2-year mandatory military service. The match with Bermudez was a high-risk, high-reward situation, and the UFC knew that. Everyone knew that. So as the fight went on, we saw Bermudez get clumsier with his jabs. And there's where the Zombie capitalized on the opportunity. His opponents know to never give him an opening, because what happened next sent the crowd in a frenzy. Jung responded with a devastating uppercut that folded his opponent in half, and with a bit of ground and pound, Jung secured a victory against his opponent in the first round. Let's go over that again. After being out of action for 3 years, the Korean Zombie went up against a top 10 contender and won the fight in the first round via TKO. In a post-fight interview, Bermudez said that he had prepared for a 25-minute fight, but hadn't anticipated how hungry his opponent was. Jung had been away, and that didn't make him sloppy. He just came back with more drive. Next, the master of callouts. The Korean Zombie is no stranger to callouts. For his fight with Mark Hominick, he called out the Canadian and offered to face him in his native land, Toronto. Before this, Hominick's last fight was a spectacular 5-round bout against Jose Aldo, and before that, he beat Leonard Garcia and George Roop back-to-back. So when Jung called him out, everyone started speculating that Hominick would take the win due to his excellent striking ability. He'd just put the Zombie to the ground, and that would be that. Hominick was strategic in the fight, deciding to attack Jung's right side, which had always given him issues during a fight, with a leading left hook. But Jung dodged immaculately and clocked Hominick with 4 rapid punches to his chin, ending the fight. Oh, and all of that happened in 7 seconds. 7 seconds was all it took. Now, the fight with Volkanovski will be different. 11 years after his debut, Jung now has a shot at the championship title. Volkanovski is no slouch, and he's putting his title on the line here. But Jung has said that he's more than excited for this opportunity, claiming that he wasn't ready to fully face Jose Aldo in his championship bout in 2013. Former 2-division champion Henry Cejudo has also been involved in training the South Korean fighter, being heavily involved in the process. Jung's coach, Cha, said that Jung is no longer focusing on being a brawler. His approach to his fight has changed, involving more patience and technical knowledge. A fight IQ is something every fighter needs, and in the UFC, the Korean Zombie has plenty. Jung is as dangerous on the floor as he is with his fists up, but currently predictions say that Volkanovski might come out on top due to his formidable striking and grappling skills. But as we remember, with his battles with Jose Garcia and Dennis Bermudez, the Korean Zombie always has an ace up his sleeve. And that's all we've got for this one. We want to know your thoughts on the Korean Zombie. Why do you think fighters are scared to face him? And what do you think will happen in UFC 273 on April 9th? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and hit the like button if you liked our video. Hit subscribe so you never miss out on any future content. Till next time.